Wonderful, wonderful, Kubler-Ross. This is a great model for applying to change, grief, and it can be the loss of something, loss of a person, the loss of a way of life, or going through a process. And again, this understanding, there's a similarity between this and the hero's work, as you can see the curve. You know, there is this higher energy that happens, and then there is this drop. And when we get this perspective that there are different feelings that happen as we are on a journey, that when those feelings surface, we can go, okay, it's okay, because I'm in a stage of the Kubler-Ross model.
So Elizabeth Kübler-Ross was a therapist, I mean a doctor, can't remember, but basically she worked with end-of-life patients. And over time, working with end-of-life patients, she realized they all went through exactly the same process. Or for them to come to peace before they died, they had to go through this process. And over time, I think it used to be a 5-step piece. And over time, it has now become, it's not just used for grief and bereavement or loss and bereavement, which is what it was for, especially the denial. There was anger, there was obviously the depression, and then there was, at the end, we didn't have integration, it was sort of acceptance before people died. She postulated that we go through this with any bereavement or any loss. So if you lose your favorite lipstick, you're going to go through the same process as if you actually lose, you know, a partner, a pet, a family member, a friend. We go through this with friendships, we go through it with relationships, we're going to go through the same process. It's just that it's shorter and less intense. But we still go through it. They then, over time, Kubler-Ross broke out of just being around loss and bereavement, because sort of the world realized it had so many applications. So now the Kubler-Ross model is used in corporate change, culture change, everything. And like Laura was saying, it has this huge sort of process. And now we obviously look at things like decision and integration. So over to you to explain it.
Okay, so something can happen. Let's apply this. This is why we wanted to have this model here at this part of the course, because let's use it for the journey that you are going to go on. So we are going to start unpicking our conditioning, our behaviors, our emotions. We're going to be going deeper into them, exploring why we do things, exploring the past, creating a map of our lives. And that can reveal a shock, or maybe you've been through a shock in the past. It could be a loss of something, a divorce, a bigger life-changing event. And we have that. And we are going to talk a little bit more about the physical side that happens, because not only are we emotional coaches, but we are also hormone specialists. So we are going to talk about the adrenaline that happens. And it is, we know that when we get a surge of adrenaline, it is a higher energy. So you can see on that curve that we're going up towards denial. Now, I used to be, and can sometimes still dip into it, the queen of denial. And that is the disbelief when shock happens, because it can shut down parts of our brain, that a denial can happen. So when you're on this journey, for example, let's apply it to this. Maybe we start uncovering something and you're not in a place where you feel like you can process it. And a denial is designed to keep you safe, actually. And so there can be a shutdown that happens. Now, the trick here, and what we're going to be teaching, is how do we start to become aware of the denial? Because often we can be completely in the denial and not be able to see it. And it is this can't be true. I'm not even going to look at this. And that is quite a high energy. The shock and the denial can be quite startling. But then the actual, it can sink in. Oh my goodness, right? I'm starting to understand what is happening. I'm starting to be able to process this. And a frustration and an anger can come through. And we are going to explore anger in greater detail. And it is very common that when denial happens, which can be quite a fear-based strategy, that once that moves through, then anger can come through. So you'll see from our course that we start to explore the fear and the anxiety first, because that's the first reaction that happens. And then once that's contained, we move into more of the anger work. And yeah, I mean, when stuff is shifting through, especially if there has been parts that we have not chosen, or something has happened to us, we feel like something has happened to us, or we recognize after years and years and years of being a people pleaser that we've been wronged on some level, this can really start to bring up frustration and anger. And then we dip down, we're going down, and when we lose way of life, when we're going through the process, and this is mirrored into the hero's journey, this is the abyss, the depression, the low mood, the not knowing what to do with it, and having the understanding that if you dive into the abyss, I mean, I go, what? We're getting close to the gold here, but it's bloody miserable. And this, when we have that understanding of why am I so low at the moment, if you're on a process like this, it's because, I mean, this stuff is moving through, change is happening. So then we start to move into, after the depression can shift, and again, we're going to provide you with tools of how to really be with that lowness so that we are able to move through and move up into coming into a new, experimenting, starting to move through it, and starting to make different decisions as we move into the integration. And the integration, I think, is a really lovely part of the Kubler-Ross model. And she used to work with another therapist called David Kessler, who is well worth checking out, because he, in the integration part, included in the Kubler-Ross model the purpose of meaning, that this change that I have been through, be it a grief, be it a journey, be whatever it is, has given new meaning to my life, has given a new perspective. And his work is beautiful because he is a grief psychologist, and he went through the grief of a child. And how he has gone through this model and applied it and then found the meaning of his son's death, I think is absolutely phenomenal. It's well worth checking out.